Ideally, the Federal Ministry of Housing is supposed to be a policy ministry. The agency that should be saddled with the responsibility of building and constructing housing is the Federal Housing Authority. In any case, that was the mandate when it was established. So,
then the Federal Mortgage Bank.
And Federal Mortgage Bank should be there to provide funding, and family homes is also there. So we'll look at the possibility of restoring the Federal Housing Authority back into the budget, this 2025. We have already commenced conversations with the leadership and Committee on Appropriations. So by the grace of God, you will soon hear from us. We invite you to come back so we engage more closely and then see how we can really help the situation. It's in national interest, and we have to do that. Thank you very much, MD. You may take your leave. Federal Mortgage Bank, get ready.
Of this committee, Your Excellency Senator Aminu Tambal, other distinguished members of this committee. My name is Sheikh Usman Osidi, the MD / Chief Executive, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. As directed by the chairman, I would also like to introduce members of my team. And I would like to start from my immediate left, Honorable Mohammed Sani Abdu is our Executive Director, Loans and Mortgage Services, a two-time member of the House. And on my right is Mr. Dapo Odojukon, our Executive Director of Finance and Corporate Services. And then next to him is Mrs. Chinenye Anosike, the Executive Director of Business Development and Portfolio Management. Distinguished Chairman, sir, and members of this committee, it is great pleasure that we are addressing you this afternoon. I would like to crave your indulgence to say that we have 3 documents that we have circulated. The first is a brief on the activities of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. The second is the budget proper, and then we have a summary of the 2024 budget performance, which also contains the projections for 2025. So with your kind permission, I would like to briefly say that the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria was established to provide affordable mortgages to Nigerians through pooling funds. More particularly, 2.5% deductions from the salaries of Nigerian workers into what is called the National Housing Fund, which is also created by an act of parliament in 1992. The statutory mandate of the bank is to provide long-term credit facilities to Nigerians to afford mortgages, also to license and encourage the emergence and growth of primary mortgage institutions. Although it's important to note, distinguished members, that even though this act is still subsisting, it has been overtaken by BOFIA. So in other words, the licensing of primary mortgage banks have been unilaterally taken over by the CBN based on the provisions of the BOFIA. The next is to encourage and promote the development of mortgage institutions at rural, local, and state levels. And then we also supervise and control the activities of the primary mortgage banks, a mandate that has also been taken over by the central bank. We also collect, manage, and administer the National Housing Fund in accordance with the provisions of the National Housing Fund Act. For now, this is the main activity of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. 3.0, distinguished chairman, sir, we have the ownership and capital structure of the bank. The bank is actually owned by 3 shareholders as provided by the Act, the Federal Government of Nigeria through the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and then the National Social Insurance Trust Fund. The CBN, the federal government has 50% shares, 2.5 billion, out of a capital structure of 5 billion. And then the central bank 30%, which is 1.5 billion. And the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund, which is 20 billion. I'm sorry, Chairman, sir. I'm sorry, I think I forgot that you had directed that I should request my colleague, the former member, to say something. So, Honorable, please. After the presentation. Thank you, sir. All right, sir. So, like I said, the approved capital base of the bank is 5 billion. But only 2.5 billion has been paid by the federal government, while the central bank has only paid 60 million naira out of 1.5 billion, while the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund has not made any capital contributions. Distinguished members, I would like to kindly draw the attention of the committee to this, because this is one of the major challenges that we have as a bank. We are grossly undercapitalized. And the central bank has only paid 60 million out of 1.5 billion. The products and services of the bank include the NHA mortgage loan facility, which is advanced to Nigerians through primary mortgage banks as provided in the Act, where Nigerians can take up to 50 million naira at 6%. I would also like to emphasize that the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria is the only institution in the country that offers mortgages at 6%, single digit. We also have the FM 6%, single digit 6%. We also have the home renovation loan, which affords Nigerians, especially civil servants, to access loans to renovate their houses, because we have situations where not everybody necessarily needs a mortgage loan to buy a house. Some Nigerians make efforts on their own to build houses, and then when they get to some level, they require some soft loans to just do some finishing and move into those houses. So we created what we call the home renovation loan. And then we also have the rent to own, because, Mr. Chairman and members, one of the challenges we observed as a bank, as one of the major issues affecting Nigerians in terms of mortgage affordability, is because income levels are very low. A lot of Nigerians are not able to raise equity to take mortgages. So we created the rent-to-own mortgage, which affords Nigerians an opportunity to move into the houses while they pay monthly, like paying monthly rent, and ultimately the houses become their own. We also have the NHF construction loan, which affords an individual who has a house, who has a title document to a land, to apply for a loan from us, a construction loan, to build a house all by himself. Then we have the Ministerial Pilot Housing Scheme, which is a collaboration between the bank and the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, where the ministry provides land and then the bank provides funding for the construction of the houses. And when the houses are constructed, the bank also provides mortgage loans to individual Nigerians to buy these houses. Then we have the Cooperative Housing Development Loan, which was also created because of the fact that from our experience as an institution, we discovered that a lot of houses were funded under a window we used to call estate development loan, where estate developers were approaching the bank to say they have land and then they require funding from the bank. We discovered that these houses were built not necessarily because we know the off-takers have an issue. So we ended up with projects that were either wrongly located or houses that are completed but there are no off-takers to off-take those houses. So we created the Cooperative Housing Development Loan. So members of staff of various organizations can come together as cooperatives, design the kind of houses they want, cost those houses according to the income levels of their members, and then they take a construction loan to build those houses. And when the houses are constructed, we again provide mortgage facilities to the individual members of the cooperative to buy the houses. Then, distinguished chairman and members, sirs, we also have a product we call the bankable off-taker guarantee. I noted that one of the distinguished members talked about the fact that, I think it was distinguished Senator Seriake Dixon, who observed that government alone cannot solve the problem of housing because of the huge housing deficit. So we recognize the need to create instruments that will enable private developers to access funding for construction from other financiers. So we created a bankable off-taker guarantee, which guarantees that if a particular number of houses are constructed according to defined standards, we would offtake the houses when they are completed. So the developers can then get a refinancing and they can move to other sites so that we can contribute towards massive delivery of houses. Then we also have created some additional loans which we intend to launch this year, one of which is the rent assistance program. What we intend to do is, because of the challenges that Nigerians do have, we appreciate that the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria is mandated to provide home ownership. But we also feel it is very necessary for us to provide housing and accommodation for Nigerians. So one of the products that we have developed is to pay rent for civil servants. We pay in bulk, for example, in January, and then we can deduct over a period of 12 months so that it makes it very easy for them to be able to afford because of the increase in the cost of general living generally. And then we also have the NHF Diaspora Mortgage Scheme. Distinguished members, sir, we introduced the Diaspora Mortgage Scheme to facilitate an avenue where inflow of foreign exchange can be achieved. We have a lot of Nigerians in the diaspora, and the annual remittance is in excess of $22 billion US. And we believe that if we are able to provide an institutional framework to harness these remittances, we will be able to use this to construct houses that can be owned by Nigerians in the diaspora, and of course utilized by Nigerians in Nigeria. So this is also one of the products we are going to launch this year. Item 5.0, sir, is operational performance of the National Housing Fund scheme from inception to date. And the total contributor base is 5.8 million, while I will just be probably mentioning the figures for this year, January to October, and then for the cumulative from inception 1992 to date. So for registered contributors, we have 166,926 for this year, and 5.8 million contributors from inception. And then the NHF collections for this year is 84.5 billion, and the cumulative is 795 billion. NHF refund, normally when you retire from service, during which you exit from the NHF scheme, what happens is that you are entitled to your total contribution with 2% interest. So we have so far refunded 84.5 billion naira in 2024, while the total, 12.183 billion total refund, while from inception is 91.184 billion. And in terms of number of people refundees, you have 33,671 for last year and 508,950 cumulative. Total loan disbursement so far, the last year